your content block, podcaster's block, as I like to say, it's almost never a lack of ideas. Okay. It's almost never a lack of information. It's a lack of confidence in the ideas that you have. And it's a lack of confidence in going back to some of the basics.
Your podcast should be your most powerful business development tool, a trust and authority builder, and your content creation engine. Let's help your podcast help your business with the Story Trust Media Podcast. Here's your host, John Gehring.
Podcaster's block. It's a term that I just made up, but I got it out of, writer's block. It's the Story Trust Media Podcast. I'm John Gehring. And it's something that I got a question from a listener about is what happens when I run out of ideas? I don't feel like I have anything to say. John, you talk about the power of batching. You talk about content creation where, every month I sit down and record 4 or 5 episodes. What if I don't have 4 or 5 good ideas for an episode? Well, it's real, and I've been there too. And I'll admit, one of the reasons why this question hits so home with me is because coming into this recording session, I was struggling to come up with all of the ideas that I need to fill my content calendar for the next several weeks. The truth is, I'll be totally transparent with you. I'm on vacation right now as this is released. So I recorded this several weeks ago. And I needed to come up with multiple ideas and batch some content creation together. And I encourage you to do the same. But when it comes to running out of things to say, running out of ideas, I do have a few tips. This has helped me through, and maybe it could help you as well. First of all, just know that your content block, podcaster's block, as I like to say, it doesn't flow as well as writer's block, but you get the point. It's almost never a lack of ideas, okay? It's almost never a lack of information. It's a lack of confidence in the ideas that you have. And it's a lack of confidence in going back to some of the basics. Okay, listen, what feels obvious to you isn't obvious to someone checking out your podcast for the first time. It's not obvious to someone who knows nothing about your niche. I had to go back and realize there are some people getting into podcasting for the first time who have no idea how to set up a microphone, how to turn on a video camera, what podcasting recording software to use. They don't know what an RSS feed is. It's just a reality. We get so deeply rooted in the nitty gritty of our industries that we just, for some reason, have this false perception of what people know about our industries. Some people, if you want to make it really simple, don't even know what a podcast is. In fact, I was talking to somebody the other day and they're like, I don't think I've ever watched a podcast before. I mean, are these little clips I see on YouTube, is that a podcast? And I will admit the definition of a podcast is somewhat confusing, but something as simple as that could be a piece of content for me. So get back to the basics. Remind yourself that not everyone knows what you think they do, and things that you think are really simple and surface level, they could be your next piece of content. So go way back to the basics. See, running out of ideas usually isn't what happened. It's usually running out of confidence in the ideas that you have and trying to push beyond too deep, too far into the weeds of what your particular topic or niche are. Point number 2, your client questions. That's your content calendar. What are people asking you? This is why I started this episode, because somebody asked it. Somebody on LinkedIn asked me, and I wouldn't have even thought about this topic if not for a question from a client that came in who also listens to the show, that came in and said, John, I'm running out of ideas. You talk about batching. How do I get more ideas? So that's how this podcast episode was originally born. So maybe the questions that your clients are asking you could be your content calendar too. It could be something as simple as, well, how do I overcome burnout? Could be something as simple as, because I work with coaches in the business development space too. My close rate is too low. What am I doing wrong? It could be actually sitting down with someone if you have guests on your show and and saying, hey, pick my brain. Would love to hear what you have to ask me anything, right? The AMA style of episodes. Those questions are gold because if you're reaching the right audience, you're reaching the niche that you're trying to reach, they're probably not the only ones with those questions. Like my grandma always used to say, there are no stupid questions. Have you ever heard that? Yeah, sit down with somebody who has questions about your brand, who's in your target audience, and you'll find that they're probably not the only one with those questions. The third idea I have for you today is your objections. If you're selling something, you're in the sales process, right? And you're trying to use your podcast as a business development tool, an authority builder in your niche. What objections are people giving you when you're trying to sell a service? For example, if you're trying to sell counseling services, one objection might be it's too expensive. Well, you can talk about the power of counseling and how you get your return on investment on that counseling and do a case study about that. That's a classic objection, right? Is it's too expensive. How about I'm not sure if this really works? Do a case study on how it really works. See, facing objections is something that every business owner has to do in the business development process. Why not make your podcast a great tool for facing those objections? So think back over the last several months. What objections have you faced when you're trying to sell your product or service? That could be a great podcast episode. Point number 4, how about go back to your own journey? Your story. Yeah, at Story Trust Media, we're all about telling stories. For me, this might be how did I get into podcasting to begin with? I worked in radio. I fell in love with this idea of audio content and what we call theater of the mind, and the idea that my voice can actually build trust and have an impact on somebody else and create authority for a brand that I can build just through the power of my own voice, which I'm pretty good at using, if you ask my wife. Won't stop using it. That's part of my journey. What about yours? Why did you get into what you're doing right now? Revisit your own journey. Those stories can be some of the most powerful content you put out there. And you'll be surprised because you think how people don't care. Again, one of the differentiators of a podcast versus a blog or written content is that written content tells them information, get to knowing what you know. A podcast, they get to know who you are. People want to know who you are. They want to know who they're listening to and who they might end up working with or refer business to. So revisit your own journey when you're stuck. Chances are you're not telling enough stories on your podcast and you're not telling your own story nearly enough. And then finally, if all else fails, if you've done all that and you're like, John, I'm still all out of ideas. You know how many ideas you can get by just asking people? You can. You could go to your LinkedIn, just start a post, maybe put a picture of yourself, looking up at the sky with a big question mark over your face. I don't know. Just as an example. Say, hey, I'm trying to think of ideas for future podcast episodes. What questions do you have? What can I address? What are some of your suggestions? You'd be surprised. I did that one time. I still have some of the ideas written down over here, and I still go back to them. And that was like a year ago. I got like 30 comments when I used to only have a couple comments on each LinkedIn post. I got like 30 comments of people going, oh, you should talk about this. You should talk about that. You'd be surprised how much of a gold mine of ideas and information people can be, people in your network. Now, the bonus point, because this one's obvious, I didn't make this one part of the 5 points, but you can use AI, and this is a great way to generate some content ideas. I will warn you that AI, you're going to get a lot of the same content that everybody else is talking about. Isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I wouldn't just rely on AI to come up with genuine content ideas. I would rely on those other things first, and then maybe, if you're still out of ideas, AI is a great tool as well. So there you go. 5 ways to get unstuck when you're stuck and you can't seem to come up with any good content ideas. Let me know if this helped you and what way you're going to be using next time you're stuck creating content for your brand. And thanks for checking out the Story Trust Media podcast, and I'll talk with you soon.
Thanks Thanks for checking out the Story Trust Media podcast. Learn more about what Story Trust Media can do for your business and book a free consultation at storytrust.media.